All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to week 2 of the Gold Lead Otter Talk. I am Traxon. Joining me this evening is Billy Willard, Barack Obama, and Mr. Bean. I wanted to keep it with the B's. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Mr. Bean to join us this evening, so we got the second best Mr. It is Mr. Lean. How is everyone doing this evening other than Billy? Because we know he's tired.
That's words right out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Doing excellent, good sir.
Good.
It's
Well,
just another Thursday. I mean, Wednesday. Whoops. There you go.
fair enough. We'll get it right one day. I guess without further ado, we should probably talk about what we're here to talk about today. It's week 2 of the Gold League, and let's get right into it with the power rankings. So the way it's going to work is we're going to show you everything. I know it's a lot to take in. I'm going to break it down for you. There are 3 people who are going over power rankings. Obviously, you see their names on there. On the left, it is the West, and on the right, it is the East. And then you have 1 to 8 for your teams. So we're gonna kind of just jump around here as we take a look at the power rankings between these 2 divisions. Right away, we see some similarities, and we see some differences, mainly with Mr. Lean. Looks like Barack and Billy kind of copied each other on their homework and just changed 1 or 2 answers. But on the right side of the screen, looking a little different. So we'll get into that. However, up at the top, it does look like everyone has CBX and GSG Sigma at the top of the board. Now, we're going to start off with Billy here and transition to Mr. Lean.
Okay.
How strong are these 2 teams compared to the rest of them within their division? That's the first question to you, Billy.
Well, just looking at it, I think with just looking at the rosters coming in, we see Titan and Altazi joining forces with the other finalist team, with Coop, No Name, and I think even Riv is now playing for them.
Mm-hmm.
This just seems like a stacked roster full of potential, and I don't think many of the teams in the West will be able to truly stack up to them. I do know that CB does tend to like to drop games randomly here and there, so I wouldn't
In
be
the
surprised
playoffs,
if they
too?
drop at least. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be
Target
surprised
OP.
if they drop a series or 2,
Okay.
but I think it's going to be a uh tough task for teams to match them this season.
Okay. And how are you feeling on GSG Sigma? How strong do you feel that they are, Mr. Lean, compared to the rest of their division in the East?
I think GSG Ligma. Excuse me. Sorry. GSG Sigma is probably
Oh
gonna
my gosh.
is probably gonna be. I think they're gonna have a pretty decent clinch on this division. I have faith in Radiant Storm and possibly Limitless as well, because both those two have kind of. I have faith in Radiant's potential and Limitless's roster, but I honestly think GSG has that. They've been playing together for so long. They know each other super well. Vandroll's a superstar silver to gold jungler. I don't know. It just seems like they're gonna have a stranglehold and not really let go of it. Their roster is pretty well rounded. They kind of know each other and what they need to do to win. Any weaknesses they can just communicate and cover that up. They don't look like anything big on paper, but when you actually see them in game, you kind of understand and go, "Wow, this is a team that has chemistry and has definitely a couple splits under their belt with each other."
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's take a look at the top teams. Now, it does look like Barack and Billy Willard both have Conduit Esports, and then they have SCS, because I'm going to have a problem continuing saying that. um, you both have them in the second place. Mr. Lean looking a little different on the right side of the screen. So I guess, Barack, go ahead and walk me through the thought process behind these 2 teams being slotted into second, and then we're going to ask what the hell is going on with Mr. Lean in a minute.
Okay.
right. Just from personal experience with Conduit, I got to play with them during the little between seasons, and I know that their laners aren't the best in lane. However, their map movements are very good, and they're always on the same page. And after playing against IG and Nads last season in the same division, I think Conduit is just stronger when it comes to decision making. As for Singed Crab Shack, I don't know anything about them. I was told they were from an upsurge, and I was really skeptical with them. I put them fourth originally, but after reviewing the games, they were very dominant and clean against Rev, so I ended up bumping them up to second.
Fair enough. Well, Barack and Billy, you guys have very similar standings. It does look like you have a little bit of a flip later on with like Revolution and Big Duck Entourage. Overall, though, very similar. Another flip again with Limitless and Radiant. So I guess the question is, Billy, why do you put Radiant over Limitless here, when everyone else has Limitless as the third seed?
I think this is more just me being a little bit optimistic, looking at the roster on paper for Radiant. I think Minute should see a lot of success here this season. He's coming back after his stint on 3-0, as well as I think it was season 3 they won.
Mhm.
He won with EQ Light, but he's always been one of the better, if not the best junglers in the league he's playing in. So I think just looking at the roster around him, he should be able to see success. I do think that they are coming together a little bit late, and they didn't have the best performance last week against GSG.
Mhm.
But I think just looking at these two teams, I feel like Radiant's the better of them at this point until proven otherwise.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And okay, I guess we're gonna hop over to the right side of the screen. We're gonna go back and forth a little bit because we have quite a few differences. So, Mr. Lean,
Uh-huh.
you have put Nads and Radiant Storm in second place, respectively. However, both of those teams have yet to win a game. So, walk me through how two 0-2 teams currently hold the second place seed in your power ranking.
Quite simply put, and I think Barack would know this very well. Sometimes teams just drop games. It could
Mm-hmm.
be because target is OP. It could be because maybe had a bad set of scrims. It could be any one of those things of this nature. But I think it's actually a little criminal to look at these teams' rosters and who they have on them and some of the experience and just kind of go like, they're not worthy of it in that instance. Plus, I'll admit I'm doing a little bit of my toxin impression, and maybe a little bit of bias is coming through, just a smidge. Um, but Nads has Deity, they have Kaiser, they have Trucks, and they have Warhead. Warhead was on the team as well when they actually won the split. I believe it was 2 seasons ago now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I personally think you'd be crazy to not rate them as like going as possibly a second place in this division. I think they're going to prove that with their performance tonight. And Radiant Storm is kind of the same thing. They have Nads. They have Nads as former middle laner, Shiny Natsu. They have Minute Militia. We and they have Waka as well. I don't think Waka is actually starting though. Correct me if I'm wrong. If this
I
sheet is
don't
correct.
I don't believe he's starting.
Gotcha. So even then, at that point, they still have a jungler who has arguably overperformed in plat leagues. They have a mid laner who is a little susceptible to a little blitzcrank trickery, but other than that, he's a solid player. And the rest of their roster, I think, is going to pull together and kind of round around those two people because decent mid jungle synergy is enough to get you a title. And they have experience playing before. Like I said, given what I know about these two teams, given to the rest of the league, I still think that they are fully capable of putting in a performance tonight that will kind of validate them being in second place for the power rankings.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we're
One more
gonna.
thing,
Go ahead.
Jackson.
Mhm.
To play devil's advocate for Nads and Radiant Storm
Okay.
Onslaught, they both went 0-2, but the teams they faced are right above them in first place
Fair.
on
Yes, that's
all
the
of our
other thing
power
too.
rankings.
That is the
Mhm.
other thing too. Like I'd argue that their competition the last week was better than anything they're going to face the rest of the split.
Okay, fair enough. Well, continuing on that trend, Barack and Billy Willard have both placed Imperial Gaming in the number 3 seed. You've slotted them in the number 6, Mr. Lean. Go ahead and walk me through the reasoning behind that. You're going to be talking a whole lot, just letting you know.
I'm okay with that. I will accept that. I will accept that L. The reason why I put like Imperial Gaming into 6 is that I kind of looked at I stepped out a little bit of BOL for this, and it was mentioned before we had hopped on the call, or before we had started going through this in this instance. Is that I look at them and they're doing okay in Risen, and they're kind of struggling over in ZZG. And which, if you ask me personally, ZZG is essentially like basically the elementary school. Risen would kind of be like middle school, and then BOL is high school. I rated them lower because I question a little bit, especially after their performances last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they lost. I'm just going through it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was Conduit, yes.
Yeah, they lost the conduit. Thank you very much. I believe that since they lost, I want to see how they're going to bounce back from that. Because
Okay.
knowing some of the personalities on that team, I'm a little questioning. But they have How I Met Your Table. They have Azure X Fire. They recently just added Paradigm Shift on as a sub as well, depending on whether or not he ever plays. I don't know. They definitely have potential to come back up. But right now, I'm selling low on them, or buying low on them, I should say.
Okay. Fair enough. I guess another team that we're going to kind of talk about, it is Monkeys Rising up next. Mr. Lean, you slotted them in 4th place. Meanwhile, Billy and Barack slotted them into 6th and 7th. So, what are you seeing, Billy, that kind of puts them towards the bottom of your power rankings?
While while this is another Monkeys roster, it's not their main roster. Like, this is a
Mhm.
freshly graduated from IBS roster. They've been playing together for a while, and I do think I believe this is one of their first true experiences in a gold league like this. I just look at some of the faces in this division as well, and I think for a developmental roster like Monkeys Rising, I think it's going to be a little bit hard for them to break into the top 5. Just looking at some of the teams they're up against, I do think that they are doing really well with the first win of the week. I believe they beat Krakens of Love, if I'm correct. Let me double check that.
No,
Yeah, they did.
that's correct, but they're like a consensus bottom team for all.
Yeah. So I just want to see if they can keep up this performance going out the rest of the season. I think if they can start taking games off of some of the top teams, they will definitely be moving up. But for now, I think they are just outside of making playoffs, at least in my eyes right now.
Fair enough. And I guess while we're talking about the Little Monkeys organization, one of the other big differences is Barack, you had them at 5. Billy Willard had the Little Monkeys at 5. Mr. Lean, you have them in 8th place. What's going on with the Little Monkeys? I guess I don't want to say A and B tier, but the main roster Little Monkeys is ranked 8th, while their second for you is ranked 4th. Is this a difference in the difficulty, or what are you seeing here?
A little bit in the difference of difficulty, but the other fact of the matter as well for literal monkeys, putting it bluntly, and I'll probably get a dirty message from Paka after this, I see in ZZG a lot. Um, honestly, they seem like an org that only really succeeds in ZZG, and while I am definitely intrigued and even gambling a little bit on the potential of Monkeys Rising and them kind of coming together, because I think they were an IBS team beforehand that moved on to Gold after they all promoted. For Literal Monkeys case, I expected more from them in week 1, and I didn't really get anything out of it. And I don't know. I'm honestly overall disappointed with their performance, and it's definitely possible that they completely bounce back. Heart Smash, whoever they're playing against this go around. But as it stands right now, especially seeming like some players like Potato Tomato, who I had the pleasure of witnessing his debut in Affliction esports, and there's just some other names here like Batman, Wonderworld. I don't know. Against the team that they were playing beforehand, I expected more.
Okay. That team was limitless in
So, yep.
in week 1. Now week 2 they're going to take on Radiant Storm Onslaught. We'll talk about that in the matchup predictions in just a little bit.
I do want to take a second to talk
Mhm.
about Monkey still, though.
Go for it.
We are still, I think we are discrediting them a little bit. They did just have to replace their mid laner due to the whole Cowherpass, account sharing ruling and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
They came in with, I believe, one of their IBS mid laners for the week. I do think that they did get a upgrade in the role this week. They have Hiding Shred going back to their main role of mid, and then just Bobo coming back from their roster last season. I do think that this is going to be an improvement. I do think that the week 1 performance does hurt a little bit for the potential of their season, just due to the fact that they did have to deal with that struggle, but I don't want to discredit them just right away with these sort of changes that they have going on currently.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it could have just been an off week as well, just looking at some of the performances from some of the players.
Yeah,
But
it absolutely could have been.
Yeah, I mean it is early. However, it's only 7 weeks. It's not 10 like last
Mhm.
season. So, if you want
every
to get
game
it
has to
in
count at this
gear,
point.
yep, you have to do it early. Unfortunately, falling 0-2. Hopefully they can turn it around. They do face a pretty tough opponent today. I want to see what else. I guess one of the other big differences that you all have is Singed Crab Shack for Mr. Lean. We put them in 5th place. Meanwhile, Barack and Billy put them in 2nd. So what makes you rank this team so much lower than the other two?
Before I get started this, I just want to confirm who did they play last week? Because I'm looking, I don't see their actual name.
They played Rev.
Evolution.
They played Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. So that I have my note right then. I put them that lows because, like, let's be real here. Revolution, looking at everyone else's rankings, is pretty much either in the 6th, 7th, or 8th. They're pretty much like in the bottom 3. Um, Personally, I don't think a team necessarily would warrant a higher place like that if they're beating what is appears to be a consensus at least bottom 3 team.
Okay.
Looking at their performances, I like what I see, and there's definitely a complete possibility. I could eat my words, be completely wrong. I'm okay with that. Being proven wrong is just a part of life. But as I'm looking at it right now, I want to see more before I rate them more highly.
Fair enough. Barack, you put them in the 2nd seed. So what are you seeing that perhaps Mr. Lean isn't, or what do you disagree with in these statements?
Like I said before, I looked at the games. I had them 4th. But after seeing not just how dominant they were, but how clean they were with closing out the games, they didn't give Rev a chance to actually take back the game. That's what bumped them up from a 4 to a 2 for me.
Okay. Speaking of 4th seed, you seem to be ranking NSG Gold a little bit higher than the 6th average that we see across the board, Mr. Lean. What's up with that?
Lean today.
What's up?
We're
You
just
can
gonna
bully
go in on Lean.
I
you
mean,
can bully me
I'm
all
no,
you
no, no. I'm
want.
not. I'm just looking at what we got going on, and you guys seem to copy each other, except for like 2 flips. And Mr. Lean is done his power rankings on Mars or something. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Listen, you try doing this. You try doing this while at work, okay? As you're talking to someone, you accidentally mistype a name, and then by the time that you notice the power rankings, it's too late, and you put Krakens of Love at first. That actually happened before I changed it.
Hmm.
So that would have
Fog.
been an interesting one. uh,
Yeah.
Looking at NSG Gold, especially saying they're playing Limitless Excel this week, um, this is about where I'd rate them. I personally think that they can have the potential to be a top 4 team in the division because I really feel like in East, it's really the top 3 is just pretty much decided with GSG Ligma, Radiant Storm Onslaught, Limitless Excel, and then that 4th place is kind of up in between Singe Crabshack and NSG Gold.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the rosters and seeing everything right now, And considering as how I believe NSG Gold had a harder match last week then, let me just double check that really quick. They did not. They played against Big Doug Entourage, which is also a bottom tier team. Um, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little running out of a little justification for that one. We'll just go for name brand value. NSG Gold hopefully can take out that can tie up the 4 seed against Cinch Crab Shack and then go from there. But if they lose this week, then I will fully eat my words and I will rank them at the bottom along with Literal Monkeys or whoever else happens to make it that week.
Okay. For the audience, GSG who, by the way?
Oh, GSG Sigma, excuse
Okay.
me.
Okay. I just making sure you're all right.
What do you mean?
Hmm?
What do you mean, Traxon? I read everything correctly, clearly.
Okay. Well, that is going to wrap it up for the power rankings. The next, what we're going to talk about, it will be the matchups. I'm going to be completely honest with you all here. Nothing has changed. Across the board, all of you agree on all of the matchups, and I don't think that's really ever happened before. Maybe once, but there's normally always one difference. But unfortunately, everyone has the same matchups. And I want to clarify, none of them see the others' work. It's all individually sent in and built out. But this week, it looks like everyone agrees.
Trying to think if I can flip one when I'm trying to argue for it in my head and I'm not succeeding.
No, the thing is, you can. Like, looking at these matchups this week, there's no good reason to say, like, if you actually going to sit here and tell me, like, and just, this is pulling one out of a hand here. If you actually sit here and tell me that you think, like, say, Krakens of Love has a chance to upset Nads, I would want whatever you're smoking because I think that's some good stuff and I would really like to enjoy it.
Fair
I do
enough.
think there is at least one matchup that could be coin flip.
We'll
at
talk
this
about that.
point.
We'll talk about that actually in just a minute. But let's talk about the first matchup. It is Big Duck Entourage taking on Singed Crab Shack. Looking at the standings, though, BDE 0-2, SCS 2-0. Obviously, we're 1 week in. That's just what happened. Shakedown last week. But all of you have gone with SCS here. Barack, how is this a one-sided match? And if so, how one-sided do you feel it is? Because most of you have ranked SCS up in the top and BDE pretty far down in the ranking.
So I'm gonna say it's pretty one-sided. I know a few of the players on BDE.
Mm-hmm.
I know JJ took a title from me. Cool. Tumble, the 80 carry, never really impressed me when we were in silver. Cooper always talked about this All Fire guy. I have no idea who that is, but he said he was really good. However, I don't think individual players are gonna be able to beat a team that are good together. It's the
Okay.
same reason I believe in Conduit.
Hmm.
So I think Cinch Crab Shack, if they're working together, which they should just 2-0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Billy Willard, play devil's advocate here. What if there were to be an upset with BDE coming out on top? How could they potentially do it, or what could SCS fumble here for BDE to win?
Well, for Singed Crab Shack, Singed Crab Shack. Sorry, I cannot talk right now.
It doesn't take you, don't worry.
They are still a relative unknown. Like they did proceed last week very cleanly. Like they were easily able to dispense Rev, but I do think that there is a level of experience here. Just like we look at the names on BDE, we see Para, we see Allfire, we see JJ. We know that they have tons of experience in the competitive scene. This could be one where they could use that experience against Inscribe Trek. We don't know too much about this team. I know that at least like a handful of players from Crabshack
Mhm.
have played in other leagues, but apart from that, we don't know much about them. I think BD has to rely on their experience in the amateur scene just to try to get them through if they want to win.
Fair enough. And Mr. Lean, what do you feel is going to be the biggest gap in this best of three series between BDE and SCS?
Well, all right. So let's take a peek here. BDE has the mandatory. Everyone else is like gold 4, and then their one player is plat 4. So that's always nice to see. Looking here, just specifically from like a rank wise, I don't see a whole lot that could be called like an individual gap. Well, I take that back. It could be a support gap. If I'm looking at it here, Kilgar, not Kilgar, excuse me, my apologies. Their their support Poison, um, looks a little bit interesting in solo queue, I must say. But other than that, like I know BDE, I've seen them play. I took a look at some of their games. I'm just not impressed. I think the big gap here will either come in either support or maybe top lane. I think Allfire on BDE side is going to do his best to try and make it a jungle gap and keep his team in the game. But as I believe Billy said it, one person or individual players can't beat an entire team that knows how to play together.
Okay.
Shin's Crapchat did have a pretty flawless performance, or not pretty flawless performance, a pretty good performance in closing out. So I just put my money fully on them. I'm calling 2-0, and I'll even throw something spicy on it. I'm going to predict that BDE doesn't get a single dragon the second game.
Okay.
That is spicy.
That is spicy. We'll see how that turns out. Next up, though, GSG Sigma taking on Revolution Gold. All of you have predicted GSG Sigma to take the win here. So, Billy Willard, we'll let you start this one off. What is the series score? And briefly, why did you choose GSG Sigma to win?
I think it's going to be a 2 for Sigma. Like we kind of talked about earlier. Sigma's just been together for so long, and they know how they want to play the game. I do think that is both an advantage for them as well as a disadvantage because I feel like sometimes their games are a little bit more telegraphed on what they want to play.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do think that if uh Rev want to
Mm-hmm.
look to win, they have to look to punish how GSG plays. They
Okay.
play they play different stuff mid lane, different stuff bot. It's just they have to be able to punish it realistically.
Fair enough. All of you consistently linked two teams as your number one team in each division. The question, Mr. Lean, is GSG Sigma the best team in BOL Gold?
No.
Okay.
I apologize for less elaboration on that, but no, I don't think they're the best team in BOL Gold. I think if I had to say the best team wins, it'd probably be CBX.
Okay. Fair enough. Next
I would have said
question.
GSG is the best team.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All
I
right.
got CB bias.
CB bias. Fair enough. Well, Brock, do you think this is a potential upset when looking at this matchup? Do you think this could be something that GG Sigma is just kind of like, looking
No.
at next week, or do you think it's
No.
just a hard smashing for GSG?
This is my first team versus the 8th team in my power rankings.
Okay.
I think GSG run through them.
Okay. Fair enough.
Sorry,
Well,
Rev.
I guess if there's nothing else to say about this matchup other than, a bit of a smashing, let's go next to talk about Litter Monkeys and Radiant Storm Onslaught. Both teams yet to pick up a win in week one. Up against each other, all of you have picked Radiant Storm Onslaught as the favorites. Mr. Lean, what's the score for the series and why?
Let's see here. I'm doing 2-0 Radiant Storm Onslaught because if there's one thing I know, there are two things that only get Meta Militia going. The election or any sort of election and losing games. If having been in calls with the with Minute Militia, especially like when we're losing games where I've been in scrims and whatnot, he's very focused, and he is definitely able to take control of the game. And I think after, especially kind of getting flamed a little bit for his performance last series, I'm kind of expecting him to kind of ramp up a little bit, get the rest of the team together, and then just kind of steamroll monkeys going into this week.
Okay. Barack, how do you feel about this matchup? Is it going to be as bad of a stomping as you think GSG and Rev Gold is, or a little bit different?
So this is the one I was trying to argue for in my head
Okay.
about flipping. Because I do know that Wonderworld and Bobo are the bot lane again. They moved Hide on Shrouds, is that his name? To
Mhm.
mid lane.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman just plays tank, which is good for any team. And Minute likes to pick some weird stuff sometimes. However, I don't think that's enough for Litmon to take 2 games.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna change it to a 2-1
Okay.
for Radiant Storm, but that is the most I'm willing to give Litmon.
Okay. So potential 2-1 for Radiant. Billy, what do you feel about this matchup between these two teams? Do you think this could be a potential upset? Do you think it's just going to be another week for Radiant Storm? What are your thoughts here?
I like Brooke. This was the one that I was arguing in my head about. I
Okay.
think with the roster upgrades we've seen from Litmon, it becomes a closer series than if they were to have played last week, obviously. I do think that Litmon also has a somewhat of somewhat of an advantage in the solo lanes. It looks like last week the solo lanes from Radiant
Mm-hmm.
kind of just sprinted it, and while the bot lane was like somewhat consistent but still not performing the best. I think if that stays true, this could be an issue for them because I know that top lane and mid are like some of the top lane is one of the strongest lanes in Litmon from having playing
Mm-hmm.
them. Mid is more of a question mark because they're coming in this week, but if that kind of stays true for this week, it could be an issue for them. I still believe it's going to be 2-1 Radiant Storm, but I would not be surprised if Litmon take the series.
All right. Well, next matchup that we will be discussing, it is NSG Gold taking on Limitless XL. Again, all of you have selected Limitless XL to walk away with the win here. However, the closest matchup for power rankings would be Mr. Lean with Limitless XL at 3 and NSG Gold at 4. You went with Limitless XL here. How close of a game do you feel this could be, and could this be the upset that we're looking for this week?
Yes, but actually no.
Okay.
Looking at Limitless Excel and some of their rosters and like comparing it to NSG Gold, I'll be honest, I screwed up a little bit. NSG Gold shouldn't have been that high.
Okay.
Especially looking at it now. I honestly kind of believe this will be I honestly believe a lot of the matchups this week are going to be 2-0s. And I think this one is no exception. Looking at the rosters, looking at how they played last week compared to this week, I'm I'm skeptical of NSG Gold's ability to take 2 games. One game, sure. I could understandably take a 2-1 Limitless Excel matchup. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not.
Okay. Fair enough. We're gonna throw it over to Barack. You put in Limitless at 3, NSG Gold at 6. How you feeling about this matchup here?
Uh, Limitless got my boy Triple Q, who I think is very good AD carry.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say about them. My thing is more on NSG's side.
Okay.
NSG has had 2 good teams in BOL from their org. The first one was NSG Black, and all those players are gone. The other one was Infinity, and all those players are gone.
Mm-hmm.
NSG Gold has been in BOL every season with these players coming in some form or another. And they're always towards the bottom half of the league. So I don't see how doing the same thing over and over again is actually going to be a positive.
Okay, fair enough. We're gonna give you a really easy question, Billy. What's the gap here for this series? Who's gonna gap who here?
Oh God.
That's not an
I
easy question,
think
I know.
that is not an easy one. On initial look, I think it just. Hmm. This is actually really hard. My mind immediately goes to the bot lane, but this is like that's both where the cap exception players.
Mhm.
That's where both of them are for both teams. I guess it. I think it'd have to be top lane
Okay.
at this point.
Isn't it always a jungle gap though?
It's always jungle gap, yes.
That's what I heard in solo queue. It's jungle
Fair.
gap.
I will say that this. I kind of do agree with Brock. This is kind of more on NSG showing up for it, not more than Limitless. I think NSG Gold has kind of just been defined by the consistency. Like they show up some weeks in their past iterations, they just don't show up other weeks we expect them to. So I think
SG Gold
that
is the new friend zoned.
Oh
Oh
no.
God.
it depends on like what NSG shows up this week.
Okay.
I think.
Fair
Out,
enough.
out of curiosity, can we switch their logos if they pick Ash Swain bot lane?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yes.
Next matchup we're gonna discuss it is Nails and Dayspa up against Krakens of Love. Most of you had Oasis Nads within your top four, Mr. Lean at top two, and Krakens of Love consistently across the board was your 8th seed. So, Mr. Lean, how you feeling about this BO3?
You know, in times like this, I like to turn to some words that I really keep close to me. Trindamere had said them, and the words are, "This will be a slaughter."
Okay.
If it's like looking at it, there's no two ways about it. Nads is by far and away the better team than Krakens of Love, or Team Solo Kraken, whatever they're called.
Krakens
I'm
of Love.
okay. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll fix that. But looking at it here, I wouldn't expect anything less than a 2-0. And you know what? I can throw a little bit of spice on it and say I'm willing to bet Nads dies 5 times or less during the second game. That's
Okay.
how lopsided I think this particular game is.
All right. Fair enough. Well, do you agree, disagree? How one-sided of a game do you feel this could be, Barack?
I don't have that same type of faith in Nads. I think it's
Fair.
one sided. I don't. I think there's no shot Nads loses a game.
Okay.
I just every season Nads coming back after winning their
Mhm.
initial season, they just get like sadder and sadder.
Oh no.
As a wrestling fan, they remind me of Goldberg, of how they came back 15 years later and they're just kind of like sad. And like last week against CBX, they just had a terrible draft that made no sense, so they kind of ran it for 40 minutes until they finally lost. That's some Goldberg right there. Initially, I thought they were facing Nitwits, and I was really frustrated because I thought Nitwits could win that against Nads. So I don't think there's a shot that Krakens can win. But saying they're only gonna die 5 times in a game, no way,
you,
no way. I think
you're
Nads will run it for sure.
you're right, because Deity and Kaiser somehow managed to lose a 1v2 gank when I played versus them in finals. So you know what? You're right. Probably can't rule them out. Kind of inting. A little bit. It's just in the nature. Deity will probably be before of those deaths. So you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I think Nads wins, but it's a little hard to watch.
Mhm.
Fair enough. Billy, what are your thoughts on Naz coming into this season? And what are your thoughts on Krakens of Love coming into this season?
Obviously, Krakens of Love is an interesting case. They kind of just. I think they were on rebuild from. They're basically a rebuilt pod roster.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they had to make a few changes towards the like tail end of last week obviously wasn't the best for them, but also it also doesn't like define them. I think they like on paper they do look good. It's just about getting that experience together, and that
Mhm.
they are up against Nads. I do think that Nads did not look convincing last week at all. Nads is one of the more scrappy teams. I think if they if they continue to look to just continue to scrap around, kind of look to troll draft a little bit, at least in my eyes, it could be a more difficult series for Neds than most other series.
Fair enough. Well, next up, we're going to talk about CBX versus Nitwits in Purgatory. All of you have ranked CBX as your number one seed, and Nitwits in Purgatory more so towards the bottom of the standing, 6th and 7th. Brock, give me some trash talk pre-game for this BO3 series.
Trash talk.
It is your team. What would you like to say to your
I'm
opponents?
not on that team anymore.
Oh,
Oh.
I was removed.
He got removed, yeah.
that was the
Uh,
trash talk.
no,
Anyway,
nothing but love for CBX and nothing but love for
what are your
Nitwits.
thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Can you give me a hot take or anything like that?
I think there's a potential for Nitwits to win any individual game in any
Okay.
series because they like to pick weird stuff.
So,
Coming from
okay.
Easton last season when he was on Gob Squad.
Mhm.
You know what Gob Squad did to me? That was rough. So like I was saying, I thought there was a chance that Nitwits was going to beat Nads when I thought that was the matchup this week. But that's not the they're facing CBX, and that's rough because CBX is my number 2 team in the league. So I don't think whatever weird stuff you pull out, it's going to work out, and I think it's 2-0 for X.
Okay. What about you, Billy? What are the chances that Nitwit in Purgatory perhaps pulls some cheese out and has a shot at this this BO3 series?
Like I said, it wouldn't be CB without them just randomly dropping games that most people think they shouldn't. I I do think that there is a chance for Nitwits. It's a slim one at that, but there is a chance. I do know that I think they are using Mello this week. I'm not sure about
Oh
if they're
no.
using their other sub, but just looking at it, I think Brock is totally right. They just have to look to play to their Nitwits has to look to play to their strengths rather than looking to try to match CBX. I don't think they are on the level that they can match CBX. They just have to play to their abilities.
You want some spice? CBX will drop a game to Rain.
You think so?
I don't know when they face, but that's when they drop a game.
Okay.
That's
All right.
interesting.
You want some bigger spice?
Oh
Sure.
no.
CBX won't make playoff. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
yeah.
Oh no.
I'm
I
kidding.
mean, they tend to make playoffs. The question is, when do they drop the game in playoffs, right?
Oh, first round.
Yeah.
Do you think
for
they're
sure.
going to lose first round that they play?
No,
No,
no.
not lose
Not,
first round. I
but
think
lose a game, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. I mean, I meant the series, obviously.
It was the classic.
They don't get eliminated till finals.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to finals. Interesting. All right.
Either that or they have to get a support midway through the series and then they leave like semifinals or whatever.
Okay. Definitely an interesting take on that. Anyone have anything they'd like to add about this B3 series? Or are we going next?
Next.
I do think
Just like my ranked games go next. Oh, never mind.
Go ahead, Billy.
I do want to talk about a little bit about the CBX roster. It is interesting to see No Name slotting into the support position at this time. I'm wondering how long that lasts. I think it will inevitably last. I just wonder how long it takes for them to really get punished for that. I know that No Name and Riv are both good players. No Name knows what support should be typically doing due to the fact that he plays ADC, but I think teams can look to punish that. So that's going to be one point I want to follow throughout the season.
I'm inclined to agree with that a little bit. I Here's the thing. I have full faith in No Name as a player. He's obviously humble enough to understand that like, hey, Riv is the better AD carry. I should swap into support, and there's nothing wrong with that. I played with Riv last season on Twin Spirits. The guy's nutty to say the absolute least, and to satisfy my contract of not dropping swear words on the Otter talk. But please don't fire me. But like, I definitely think that there's a way for teams to exploit CBX in that manner, and possibly get themselves a bot lane advantage because Riv can't do it all. But the fact of the matter is the rest of the roster is basically just composed of last season's finals players, in addition to Booty Bang and Billy.
Hmm.
So yeah, um, I think the weakness is there. How easy it is going to be exploit is a little bit of a different story.
Well,
Hmm.
I have a hot take
Okay.
Oh yeah.
about X. Booty Bang and Billy is the best player on that roster.
Okay. Hey, Barack, can we have a session afterwards? Because I want whatever you're smoking, bro. I think that must be some top tier stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, not high, just honest.
Oh, same thing.
I
Same.
actually do think he's. I do think he is better than people gave him credit for. I will agree.
Oh no,
Having played against him, yeah.
absolutely. I played against him when he got his first split together. I think it was 2 seasons ago when the EOU was still a thing, and he was
Hmm.
playing top lane for them. He was absolutely solo carrying that team, and that was 2 splits ago. I have without a doubt that he's improved since then, and probably could be a starter on a lot of these other rosters and dramatically improve the team.
Hmm.
But looking at it right here, I don't think he's the best player on the roster, but he's
Oh,
definitely
that's the hill I die on.
that's fair. I died
Okay,
on the
fair enough.
MSG's fourth hill, so
Well, second to last matchup, it is Conduit Esports taking on Monkeys Rising. Both teams undefeated 1 week into the season. All of you have selected Conduit Esports. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of you, yeah, all of you put them in the top three. Meanwhile, Monkeys Rising, 4th, 6th, and 7th seed between you all. We're going to start off with Billy. How big, how much of an uphill fight is this for Monkeys Rising here this week?
I definitely think this is one of their first true tests of BOL. Like like we talked about previously, they are a graduated IBS roster. They're going up against what we believe is probably the second best team in this division. So I do want to see how they really
Mm-hmm.
stack up against some of the top teams in this division. I think it is very much so an uphill battle though. It's kind of hard to just look at the individual lane matchups and not see it favoring
Mm-hmm.
Conduit at this point. I will say it will become a little bit more of an interesting matchup if Akbla is playing top opposed to facing second. That does make their roster look a little bit better on paper. So that's just something
Okay.
to keep an eye on for tonight. I definitely think it's still going to be a 2-0 for Conduit, but
Okay, so Billy's saying 2-0 for Conduit. Mr. Lean, is there any way that you could see a potential upset out of this series between
an
these two
upset.
teams?
No,
Okay, just straight
and
up, no.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You'll have to excuse me. My daughter just walked in the
I'll
room
get, I'll
and then
get.
decided to appear. But no. An upset, no. A game, sure. I could believe Monkey Rising taking a game off this, but I don't believe necessarily that they're going to really rock the boat or do anything crazy with this matchup. I think it's still fully in favor of Conduit.
Okay. Any hot takes for either of these teams or this series, Brock?
No,
No?
got nothing.
Okay. Just pretty much gonna smooth sailing for Conduit through this series, BO3?
Yep, they're
Okay.
goated. Much
Okay.
love.
Fair enough. Last but not least, we're going to talk about the gamers matchup. It is going to be Imperial Gaming taking on Rain Gaming. All of you have selected Imperial Gaming, but what gets really interesting is I think this is one of the first times we've seen someone do power rankings and then pick the lower seed to win the matchup.
Why is it always me?
Is you
Well,
really messed up your power rankings, bro. That's
either
why.
you really
Listen.
messed up your power rankings, or you think that this is potentially an upset. Regardless, walk us through your decision with Imperial Gaming over Rain Gaming, your
I'm gonna
fifth
be
and sixth seeds.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I did the power rankings like 30 minutes before, and then I did my predictions, and then I just now realized that they're playing each other. Uh, if I'm being completely honest here, there's no way like Imperial Gaming doesn't take this series against Rang. I have a lot of love for the Rain boys, particularly Emperor and Smitty, but
Okay.
I don't think I'm gonna go 2-1 Imperial Gaming.
Fair. Do you think that within the next couple weeks you will see Imperial Gaming climb within your power rankings, or do you think they're gonna remain around the same seed?
They're though I'm gonna be honest, it's almost a definite thing that they're going to rise.
Okay.
Looking at like the rest of the teams that are in the West, I think I underrated them a little bit, and I actually think they'll be in the top four with CBX, Nads, and Conduit.
Okay. Fair enough. Barack, Imperial, Rain Gaming. You have Imperial. Any chances that Rain take this game here, or the series?
Yeah, I think there's always a chance when you're facing Imperial. I think Imperial is one of those teams like they play a lot of the same players consistently for a few splits now,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they just like to drop games out of nowhere. We saw it with how close the North Division was last season,
Mm-hmm.
where like they were battling Gob Squad for the third seed the entire time, and we saw it when we had a preseason tournament at the beginning of the year and they came in really hot day one and were beating everybody and then lost immediately in day
Mm-hmm.
two.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the best of format helps them more, so I could see them winning more games or series. So I would say the chance that Rain takes a game is high, but I don't think they take the series.
All right, and Billy Willard, you have the floor. Closing remarks on this BO3.
I will say that teams may get surprised by Rain. Uh, we the team I play on ended up playing them last night.
Mm-hmm.
They're they're surprisingly good at the early game. I do think that that is one of their strengths. I think if you're not prepared, they will punch you in the mouth and look to take the game from there. But it is it is a story of like keeping that consistency. I want to see if they can compete with the top teams. They will. I think they will see some success this season. It's just a question
Mm-hmm.
of how much for me at this time. I think it's still Imperial, but I would not put it past Rain to take a game, if not even potentially the series.
Fair enough. Well, talk about power rankings for the East and the West, as well as the 8 games that we have this evening. We're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back with a game 1 of Week 2 for the Gold League. We will be right back.